look at the history of child welfare in the United States as well as in Mississippi, the vast majority of children were brought up in orphanages. There was a movement that started across the country, a number of organizations setting up children's homes. Basically, 1912, a board was formed, and it was decided to hire, and back then they called him a superintendent, to develop a Mississippi Children's Home Society, and the first office was in Meridian, and stayed there basically for 1 year, and after that it came to Jackson. The receiving home was a temporary shelter or receiving home to take children in that were orphans or half orphans and to place them in foster homes that the organization hoped would become adoptive homes. And so we did this for many, many years.
My mother died when I was just a small child, and my daddy raised me on up to about 5 years old, and he put me in the orphan's home in Jackson, Mississippi. He couldn't take care of me because he'd make a living too.
Quite a few board members who were adoptees, or they knew someone who was adopted through the children's home, and though I don't have that particular personal connection, it's the kind of personal connection that when you hear about it, it truly tugs at your heart.
I was adopted as an infant. I was about 6 weeks old when I was placed with my family, Joe and Betty Wright.
So anyway, we picked up our son Andy and took him down there and walked in and saw a little redhead lying there, and about 6 weeks old. And son Andy was along, and his eyes got real big. And, he looked over and said, "Is that ours?"
I have always seen it as I was chosen and gifted to the family that I'm in.
This thing has blessed me, boy, being a part of the children's home, and I bless them. I will tell you that in a minute.
Back then they were providing infant adoption, and they were also providing maternity care. You see, in 1978, they decided to look for an executive director and recruited me to come down. And so I came down. Staff was about 25 staff, and it was about $250,000 budget. And from 1978 to 2012, we've had this exciting ride of rapid growth. During the period that I've been here, we developed a comprehensive child welfare agency. It's a family and children's services agency that provided everything from adoption to maternity services to shelter care to family counseling, consumer credit counseling. We also provided foster care, as well as various types of preventative and early intervention services. When you look at the really rapid change that the agency has been involved in, once we became, fully involved in the behavioral health field, the agency really has not, looked back as far as its growth. We were the first organization in the state to be given a grant by the Department of Mental Health to develop therapeutic group homes. We were one of the first organizations to develop a program for youth that were chemically dependent, and that was the ARC. One of the things that I've been most proud of has been since the early 1980s, once we became involved in behavioral health, that threw us in a whole different league with the development of the CARE Center. We've been able to provide excellent service through the development of a 60-bed psychiatric residential treatment center, which is CARE Center, and a supporting school system, CARE Center School, which takes and educates the children that are in the treatment center, but also takes kids that come from our local public schools that their alternative schools have had a difficult time educating.
He was 8, and he would throw, he would get real angry when he didn't get his way, to the point that he would hit me. He was diagnosed with bipolar, anger, ODD. It just got worse. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, there was another doctor, and he said, "Cindy, I think it's time to make him residentially cares."
Our belief is not to bring children up in institutional setting, but to bring them up in a family and in a local community.
They taught him coping skills that nobody else would have taught him. They totally took him off all his medicine and tried another mix, and it was right this time. Will became my child again, and when they said for him to go back, I wanted to say, can he graduate, please, from here?
We also have a variety of outpatient programs. This is one is the biggest is under Medicaid. It's called MyPAC, and this is a program to keep children from having to come into acute care or into residential treatment by providing wraparound services in their own homes.
When Kiki came to live with us, she was age 7. She had a lot of problems at school. She would act out in class. She had bad grades.
I started getting a lot of phone calls, back to back. He's hitting other students. He's cursing.
We knew we needed some kind of help, and we were lucky enough to find MyPAC.
The MyPAC program in particular has been a program that has just caused phenomenal growth throughout the organization.
MyPAC involved the whole family.
In fact, we've become one of the models that they like to use in the way that we've implemented this program from the very beginning.
At school, she became an honor roll student. She became student of the month. She didn't have any issues as far as behaviors at school.
MyPAC has got us on the right road, on the right path. It seems like a puzzle has been put together.
I think the fact that we are at a point where the staff is pioneering programs that are being picked up nationwide or being used as models nationwide. And that's an exciting thing for an agency in Mississippi, to be seen as a national leader, and we are.
I believe that Mississippi Children's Home Services has shown over its 100 years of services that it has been a very good steward of its resources, a very good steward of how it has worked with children and families, and how it has tried to remain relevant, how it's adjusted to changing needs.
This is a place that provides care when there might not be an answer anywhere else.
Particularly as we get to our 100-year point, and we are at this 100-year point, that we also use that opportunity to look back and to be sure that we do keep in mind and that we do keep in our focus the programs that got us where we are.
We do so much that it's hard for people to grasp.
Most people think of the Mississippi Children's Home as an adoption agency, and that it's more than that.
It breaks my heart to see there are more children each year, but what if we weren't Mississippi Children's Home Services? Where would they go? What would they do for a solution to find help?
We've made a difference in hundreds of thousands of families and children in Mississippi, and that we've been an example of how people in Mississippi can come together and really do what the state needs to raise the level of care and treatment of the least of these.
We were searching for help, and the only place we found it was MyPAC.
These people are not only here to help Jamie, they're here to help me too, and they did.
There is hope. There is hope for him to be a child again.
We have touched thousands of children and created loving homes and families for so many of them over this wonderful 100-year tradition.